Meditation and Spiritual Life, Swami Yatishwarananda. Strive for the highest. We all have an opportunity to follow saner and better ways. But we cling to our particular toys and do not let go our hold. We have to suffer and we suffer until we learn the great lesson life teaches us again and again in innumerable ways and come to act wisely. Just as most people try to achieve their worldly ambitions and ideals, we should strive for spiritual life and illumination, but this most people won't do. And it depends solely on our own choice whether we take up the worldly life or the spiritual life, whether we lead a life of slavery and fear or that of freedom and fearlessness. We must strive to achieve something that is higher, that is not subject to change and decay. But we very often choose the path of avidya, ignorance, willfully and deliberately because we cling to our phantoms of physical and emotional enjoyment, which, after all, we shall have to give up sooner or later. We all one day must let go the hold, and if we do not do this of our own free will, the toy will be torn away from us, and this will mean great sorrow and, in many cases, a broken heart. For most people, this is the only way in which they can be made to learn their lessons, but it is very painful and usually takes many lives. We should try to live a spiritual life knowingly, consciously, deliberately, in a spirit of dedication and singleness of purpose. This will of ours may be directed towards the higher channels of life or towards the lower ones, just as we please. If we are able to rouse tremendous enthusiasm in ourselves for the goal to be attained, then only shall we get the necessary energy to strive for it and do our utmost. In the world of the spirit, you very often find people with a chaotic brain. They do not care to follow any definite system and like to drift on the boundless sea of their emotions and impulses. So they attain practically nothing, and in fact, just as little as the out and out worldly minded people do. No person with a muddled brain can have any success in the world, and much less so in the spiritual world. Settle once for all what you really want. Very often we want to attain peace, but follow a path that can only end in restlessness and trouble. There is a saying in Bengal, there are some people who, when they want to go towards the east, start walking towards the west. And if you ask them why they do so, they reply, because I want to go towards the north. The test of truth. The lover, when dreaming of his beloved, imagines things that have no reality. The madman too imagines things that do not exist at all. All hallucinations are to be avoided in spiritual life. We must try to get a glimpse of truth by following a systematic course of spiritual practice. If such a glimpse comes unawares, and if we are not properly prepared for it through long and regular training, the reaction may be tremendous and may even unsettle us for life. We must first learn how to become fit for such glimpses so that we can then make them our own for good. Spiritual evolution at first brings great suffering to the aspirant, not happiness. In the intermediate stages, his life becomes very difficult. Then he has no longer any real interest in what he has in the world, and cannot yet obtain self realization, which is still beyond his reach. It is just like hanging in midair without being able to go either up or down. The test of truth is this. Whereas in the case of worldly things and worldly relations, you can never get any ultimate satisfaction. In the case of spirituality and spiritual life, you can get that perfect satisfaction which is not dependent upon anything external. So, the great sage Narada says, realizing that divine love, a man attains perfection, immortality, and ultimate fulfillment. यल्लब्ध्वा पुमान् सिद्धो भवति अमृतो भवति तृप्तो भवति नारद भक्ति सूत्र 1.4. The really thirsty man always needs water, but those who are not thirsty can do without it for a long time. The really sincere aspirant will do all he is told, but people are so half hearted and so little sincere that they are in no great hurry to follow the advice they are given. And then we want the purest water, not unadulterated water, or water that has become terribly dirty. We should rather feel really thirsty, but should not go in for anything that is not good or pure. Truth cannot be realized without struggle. All life is no doubt a struggle. Everybody is struggling to achieve something or other, but spiritual struggle is a struggle of a higher order. It is a struggle for consciousness. Struggle, struggle, struggle. There is no other way. Let us not be afraid of struggles. The power of reality. It is often very difficult to have yearning for God in the beginning. And the reason is that God does not seem a reality to us. With most of us, this body is our soul, and it is for the enjoyment of this body on the material plane. It need not necessarily be a very gross form of enjoyment that we are most anxious. Religion to most of us is something highly amateurish and a kind of fashion, just like so many other fashions. But if someday, through our spiritual striving, God comes to be a reality, we feel that our whole being responds to that reality and longs for it alone. If the world is real to us, it absorbs our entire attention. If something else is real, that too does the same. That which we take to be real for the time being affects us, stirs up our feelings, draws out our will. It occupies our whole intellect. In fact, our whole being responds to this reality. If we carefully study our own lives and the lives of saints, we find a great difference. It is the reality that affects the minds of both, but the reality is something different to the saint from what it is to us ordinary people. To us, this world is real, to them, the spiritual world alone is real. This whole their whole life is filled with this one idea: how to realize the divine, how to make him a reality instead of an intellectual and vague concept. If we are able to appreciate what the saints call reality, we can also appreciate why they are ever ready even to lay down their lives for the sake of God realization. We shouldn't, however, blindly imitate the saints. They may appear rather unconventional or strange in their behavior, but as we have said, all their thirst for God is based on a clear conception of reality. Those of us for whom this sense bound world alone is real should be careful in our spiritual struggles. For us, success largely depends on the regularity and intensity of our daily spiritual practice. Very often, we are so careless in this. Without steady practice, nothing can be attained in spiritual life. Spiritual life must be a life of dedication to the highest, a life of consecration and sacrifice and one pointedness. So, we should be more wide awake and more careful about our own thoughts for our own benefit and for the benefit of others to whom our thoughts of lust, greed, or violence are worse than poison gas. Indeed, the havoc we create by our impure thoughts is far worse than that created by poison gas. By our impure thoughts, we affect people who do not even know impurity. But by our pure thoughts, we help others in their struggle after purity. Divine discontent. We must rouse a tremendous divine discontent, the discontent the mystics of all ages speak of. Unless we are able to rouse in the soul this divine discontent, which can destroy all our attachments to worldly things and desires, we will not be able to get real yearning for spiritual realization. There can never be any real peace in the world. Though we must play our part in it as best as we can, there must never be any kind of slackness in our striving, nor any kind of satisfaction with our state of bondage. Such forms of satisfaction are very dangerous for all spiritual aspirants. We must consciously keep burning the fire of hankering and yearning for the higher life. We must never waste our energies for anything lower. We must never prefer the peace of lethargy to this restlessness for spiritual achievement. There can be no security unless we have already proceeded very far towards the ultimate goal. Any devotee may come to grief or have a nasty fall at any moment before he has attained to spiritual self-realization. So, we should never risk too much relying on our own strength before having advanced considerably. Spiritual practice and prayer must be intensified. Constant prayer day and night, constant meditation, constant thinking of higher thoughts would do us immense good. The mind of the beginner must be kept constantly busy with divine ideas so as to create the habit. After having created the right habit, the path becomes smoother and there is less strain in the life of the spiritual aspirant. We must give our whole mind to God, not merely a bit of it. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, if I want to buy a piece of cloth worth 1 rupee, I will have to pay 1 rupee and not 1 paisa less. Otherwise, I shall not get it. So, also in spiritual life, if you don't pay full attention, you simply don't get anything. If after practicing meditation perfunctorily for a few months or even years, you find that you have got nothing spiritually, you have nobody else to blame. What we need is perseverance. There must be steady, regular practice. Let us rather die in the struggle to keep our body and mind pure than give it up. What does it matter even if we die? What matters is that we realize the truth, that we attain our full stature of true being. If we struggle our utmost, if we do our utmost, we will have fulfilled our duty, then the rest must be left to the divine. Here, true self surrender and resignation to the Lord have their place. The man who has intelligence for his charioteer and the well controlled mind for reins attains the end of the journey at supreme abode of the divine, says the Kathopanishad. Vijnana sarathir yastu manah pragrahavan naraha sodhvanah paramapnoti tadvishnu paramam padam. Kathopanishad 1.3.9. We should never be contented or satisfied with ourselves and think we have done our best. It may have been our best for the time being, but we should pray to the divine for greater and greater strength to be able to do more. Today, I may be able to lift only 10 pounds, but I can ask for the strength to lift 100 pounds. My capacity can be increased even if I think I have already done my best. And I am doing my best because this best is not a fixed quantity.